have stayed interested in ways that we could show up for St. Louis.
You're doing this for generations yet unborn.
This is a challenge that can be solved and can be solved beautifully.
Today on Spotlight, hopeful messages spread around St. Louis. Plus, a look back on the work of civil rights activist Frankie Freeman. And then why WashU researchers are putting casts on their arms. But first, a civil rights icon turns her trials into triumphs. It's Sunday and you're watching the Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Don't think of the civil rights movement and Black History Month as something outside of you. My dear friend, Black History Month merely brings up an issue that is your issue as well. Are you equal? This equality, your own place in life, and it is the place that you're expected to maintain throughout your life, through adulthood. Knowing who you are, what you've come to contribute, and what you have a right to, and what you have a right to contribute is the most important gift you have in your life.
Perhaps no one better understands that gift than Dr. Melba Pattillo Beals. At the age of 15, this trailblazer was one of 9 African-American students chosen to integrate the all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas.
I wanted the resources it offered me because the students from that school went to the top universities in the world.
But her hopes of attending Central High School were met with oppression and terror.
First day I went to Central High School, it was an incredible mob, so there was ugliness there.
Multiple attempts to safely enter the school and stay in classes were unsuccessful, due in part by the illegal segregation orders by Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus. First, the Arkansas National Guard prevented the students from entering Central High. Violent racists traveled in from the South to Little Rock to stop the integration at all costs. Then the local police were overpowered by the growing mob of hateful protesters. The escalating violence took an emotional toll not only on the students, but their parents as well.
Yes, they suffered terribly. They made a sacrifice. They worried about us daily. Sometimes they had to come to school and they risked their own lives.
Little Rock was out of control and in crisis, a true state of emergency. President Eisenhower sent the 101st Airborne to restore order and ensure the safety of the students. The armed soldiers drove the Little Rock Nine to and from Central High and escorted them through the protesting crowds and into Central High School. This was a welcome reprieve for the parents, so much so they jointly sent a telegram to the White House to thank the president. But for the students, troubles continued inside the school, despite the presence of the soldiers who escorted them to their classrooms and stood guard outside the classroom door. The white students who were friendly to the black students were also met with hostility from others.
There were people in there who had souls and who would have done it differently. But whenever they tried to do it differently, they too were threatened and mistreated.
So how did this 15-year-old find her way to endure the heartbreaking persecution? She received life-changing words of wisdom from someone who related completely to her struggle. It was Dr. Martin Luther King.
I met him a couple of times, and on the first time I met him in Mrs. Bates' basement, all 9 were sitting there, and I was just whine. And he said, Melba, you are not doing this for yourself. Don't be selfish. You're doing this for generations yet unborn.
To fight her fears, young Melba received spiritual guidance from her grandmother.
From the very beginning of my life, I was taught the Bible, made to repeat Bible verses, always told that God is with me.
The teen recorded her fears and pleas to God in her daily journal. Decades later, Dr. Melba Pattillo Beals included many of those journal entries in her best-selling book, Warriors Don't Cry.
That is a book which tells you what happened in Central High School once I was inside, day by day. And it explains to you the process one goes through in one's head. You know, as a child, certainly you don't think of death or attack or any of that as being something that is in your face now. And what that did was to teach me that it is in your face now. And it really made me alert and gave me strength that I exhibit today.
Her first-person historical account from Warriors Don't Cry became a part of the social studies curriculum for middle and high schools around the country. It also launched a healing journey for Dr. Beals.
God has brought me a long, long way and kept all the promises that my grandmother made on his behalf. She said, be patient. God is with you, and he sees your need. And so I see that equality that I hoped for and prayed for and begged for.
Follow HEC Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You pass by them every day, in your neighborhood, on the side of the highway, constantly bombarding you with information, usually in the form of an ad. However, a local arts organization has found a different use for billboards in the metro region.
We have stayed interested in ways that we could show up for our neighbors, our various communities of St. Louis.
The Luminary, in partnership with STL Made, reached out to a handful of local artists in the St. Louis community with a prompt to engage the minds of pedestrians and drivers on their way to and from their daily activities.
Coming out of the moment, we wanted it to feel timely, that it wasn't just, works of art appearing right now, but that there was a sense of all 8 billboards held together in some meaning. So we put a prompt out to the artists to engage questions of futures for our region, communal healing, and ways of connecting right now, even in a moment of isolation.
What I'm really always interested in is the people who are moved by it and how. I've had a few people who saw the billboard before it was posted on social media, and they said they got teary-eyed.
I wasn't interested in anything too complex, because a billboard, I think you need to see it and then take it with you, because you're driving by, you're walking by. It's not something you want to have to think about too hard. But I wanted it to be resonant, and that idea that joy is possible. It's not new. It's very simple, but I think it's something that I needed to hear. And so I wanted other people to be able to kind of chew on it too. I've never seen anything that I've designed at that large of a scale. And so you don't really know how it's going to work. There's no way to mock that up. I'm looking at it on a laptop screen and saying, I think this is gonna be compelling. But I can remember when I got the email that it was up, I drove over there frantically, oh my God, what is this gonna look like? And I was a little bit afraid, but then it was a sigh of relief, and it's okay, it does what I intended for it to do.
I do a lot of writing, and I had kind of been thinking about this feeling of invisibility, and I knew if I had a chance to say anything to the general public, it would be something about the ways in which people try to make you feel invisible. And the seeing us with closed eyes to me was kind of refusing to visually represent a certain type of person or group of people. And seeing us with closed minds, refusing to take the time to understand your history or your community's history. And then the third way, seeing us with closed hearts, is to me, I don't really have to know the history of people to, open my heart.
Through the artist's individual approaches and styles, the Luminary was hoping for the billboards to reach the people of St. Louis on a personal level.
In this moment, I think that my kind of intent be encouraging, because I think that is what we need. I know that's what I need. I wanted something almost soft or quiet, but also powerful.
I think anybody on this planet has felt invisible in some way or another. And I don't like the knowing, that some people feel that way and feel invisible. I think that there's enough room, there's enough space and time for like everyone.
So we're consistently interested in basically how art appears unexpectedly into people's lives. And I think, it's something that's really personally meaningful to me to see art that is able to actually speak to what people are dealing with on a day-to-day life, and that you don't have to enter a gallery or museum to experience that is, I think, really foundational to how we work.
For a map of Billboard locations, head to theluminaryarts.com.
St. Louis, we're going through difficult, confusing, and often frightening times, but HEC Media is here for you in new and expanded ways with free educational resources, critically acclaimed author interviews,
books save you if you're going through a bad time,
virtual art fairs, local COVID research.
This is kind of a home run, a dream response to the vaccine,
and much more. HEC is honored to help our arts and cultural communities survive and thrive, and to show you there is strength and hope in St. Louis.
Frankie Muse Freeman wore many hats in her remarkable 101 years on this planet.
I have been appointed as the first female commissioner of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Served for 16 years under 4 presidents.
Wife, mother, lawyer, and civil rights activist. As a youth in her hometown of Danville, Virginia, Freeman regularly faced racial discrimination and promised herself that she would find a way to fight the bias she faced on a daily basis.
We walked to school because our parents did not, it was absolutely racially segregated, and so black people were expected to sit in the back of the bus and no way. So we walked wherever we had to go, unless we were riding in a car. But we would not. One of the things that our parents agreed was that there are things in terms of the segregation that you had no choice. But if you had a choice, you rejected it. I graduated from Howard in 1947, second in my class. By that time, I was married, I had a daughter. I was determined I was going to become a lawyer, but I was not going to do anything that was less than what a wife and mother would do. So I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do my homework while I was a student there. Thurgood Marshall, when I graduated, offered me a job working for the NAACP. But my husband was from St. Louis, so there was no question but that we were going to be coming to and live in St. Louis.
Freeman spent her life fighting discrimination and helping to establish civil rights policies, including helping to end school and housing discrimination in St. Louis.
I left Howard and came to St. Louis thinking that maybe I could at least become a member of the staff of one of the law schools. And that was not the case with respect to either the white ones or the lawyer. They were going to give me a job, but I was determined that I was going to try cases and I was going to be a trial lawyer. I was denied. Then I told Shelby, my husband, well, I'm going to open my own law office, and that's what I did. And I associated myself with the NAACP and told them I'd be available. For Bruton versus Board of Education, filed in 1949. It was my first civil rights case, which we handled, and we won it in the circuit court. There's an individual responsibility for each one of us to do our homework and make it better. And I'm hoping that each one of us will do our homework and make it better.
The Opera Theater's plan for this year, later on Spotlight.
Conducting research using his own body. There's nothing unusual about this for Dr. Nico Dosenbach. The neuroscientists would lay for hours in an MRI scanner after midnight for scans of his brain. The research is safe, unlike the idea behind the movie Flatliners.
Do you have plans tonight? Do you want to have fun with me later? Midnight basement, sublevel C.
It's late night or early morning in the dark, you know, by yourself, nobody's around in the facility. It still felt very sort of stealthy.
At Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, however, it's not in the basement. And why not? After midnight is considerably less expensive. Scanning charges with the MRI are 90% off. As to why, it's the best way for Dosenbach and his colleagues to uncover the mysteries of the human brain. For this to happen, he wanted more brains for his research, which meant getting creative for recruitment by having fun with it.
Scientists aren't thought of as being sort of cool or goofy necessarily, and so we tried our own nerdy version of like a club or a gang.
Dosenbach formed a club for his gang of enterprising scientists called Midnight Scan Club. Members get T-shirts with the club logo. After midnight, they took turns in an MRI scanner, generating a massive amount of high-quality data, making discoveries and publishing papers, but doing it like this.
You get quite the reaction. They're like, oh my God, what happened? You break your arm? And you say, no, actually, it's for research. They really want to know what kind of crazy you are.
Not crazy at all. Not with what he would soon discover by scanning his brain before, during, and after immobilizing his primary arm, wrist, and hand. He would scan his brain after hours, every day.
Okay, now's the point where you say it's all a joke.
But this is no joke. Dosenbach wanted to know about the plasticity of the adult brain to see how plastic it may be, meaning its ability to adapt and rewire itself, responding to functional changes.
What the cast did is reduced use of the previously dominant arm by as much as having a stroke would have.
He decided to be put into this cast for 2 weeks. So Midnight Scan Club has a new look. First, Dosenbach's hot pink cast, a form of marketing for recruitment.
Sure enough, people started lining up saying, hey, I want to do it.
This was followed by another club member's neon yellow cast and a neon green. The data showed how the adult brain is more plastic than expected. They discovered how quickly the brain adapted to the immobilized limb. In the brain scans, they found previously undetected brain pulses that activate quickly within 2 days. Dosenbach says they are disuse pulses or spontaneous bursts of neurons firing.
Huge spikes in spontaneous activity, sharp looking, that normally aren't ever there, that were very much specific to the parts of the brain that had been disused.
Their brains produce the spontaneous pulses that seem to maintain neural activity in the disused circuits. This allowed the main motor circuits to reactivate after the casts came off. The neurons quickly began firing again when mobility was regained.
Within 2 days, it felt like everything was back to normal, and the brain data showed the same thing. It was a significant effect. Like, I think I lost 30 pounds of grip strength. The grip strength came back all the way to baseline in everybody in 2 weeks or less.
The findings can lead to advances in treatment for people recovering from strokes, broken limbs, or other immobilizing conditions. With many more questions now begging for answers, Dosenbach says he will need to have another casting call, in a different sense of the term, to cast more members of the club. You can find the full story about the study on our website, hecmedia.org.
We're really excited to be showing the work of John Garrett, who is a studio artist that's been working for over 40 years. We've been representing him for over 25 years. So we're very familiar with the work and always excited when he has new material that we can exhibit. I think people will find it extremely interesting because it's all material-based. And when I say material-based, what I mean is recycled or unexpected objects that he takes and makes artworks that really have soul and cause you to investigate and think much differently. The work that we have here spans a time of 2006 to the present date and includes work that is made of VHS tape, rebar ties, bottles, anything that you can possibly think of. And what he does is he gathers these materials ahead of time, and then he explores that, studies them, and tries to figure out a way to reclaim them. So these recycled materials turn into something that I think are magical and very sculptural, regardless of whether they're hanging in space or on a pedestal or they're on a wall. He is always looking and hunting for materials that people are discarding. And one thing that we all know that's been discarded is VHS tape. I can think of countless times I have walked into a resale shop and seen them stacked up and wondered, what do people do with this, because we don't have the players anymore. Well, he did the same thing and started gathering them, and so he uses it like a fabric, like a yarn, like thread, and thought, I could put this on a loom. I could weave these, and I could weave them so tightly that people wouldn't know what they were. And so we have two particular pieces here. One is called Whispers, and the other one is called Curtains. Whispers looks exactly as I'm telling you, like a whisper of black cloud. And from a distance, you would never know that it's videotape. And Curtains is tighter, months and months and months of putting it together on a loom in separate pieces. It looks to me like the side of a house or a painting that glistens, and because it's videotape, it does do that. So the light actually bounces off the piece itself. So I think that is just an amazing exploration of materials. The John Garrett exhibition at Duane Reed Gallery continues through January 25th. You can also view all of the artworks and see exhibition photographs on our website, which is DuaneReedGallery.com.
You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
St. Louis has a long tradition of outdoor theater, beginning in 1914 with the Pageant and Mask in Forest Park. The Muni has been producing outdoor shows for more than 100 years.
Well done, my lord.
For the past 20 years, the winter of our discontent has ended with springtime productions of Shakespeare in the Park.
Good job.
Now, because of the pandemic, Opera Theater of St. Louis will be moving its performances into the open air. Not in a park, but in a parking lot.
Some of the great opera performances in the world are done in outside venues. The Baths of Carcalla in Rome, the Arena in Verona. I'm not suggesting we'll be creating anything quite like that, but this is a challenge that can be solved and can be solved beautifully.
Yeah, I would imagine as creative people, even though this is not the way anybody wanted this, it's got to be kind of an interesting challenge.
The best art is often created under situations of real duress, and some of the worst art is created with a blank check and excess.
After Opera Theater lost its entire 2020 festival season to COVID-19, they put together a team of top medical professionals to help develop an approach that would allow the 2021 festival to proceed safely.
Different companies in different parts of the world are solving this question differently. And so we're seeing opera in parking garages and opera in parking lots and drive-in opera in some places. The plan that we have crafted, I hope, will be very true to the opera theater experience.
Opera Theater is not moving its operation very far. They will build the outdoor stage in Parking Lot A next to the Loretto Hilton Theater. Audiences will sit in socially distanced pods of 2 seats each, with total attendance limited to 250, about a fourth of their normal capacity. They still plan to provide a picnic area, but probably smaller and more spread out. These won't be concert versions of operas. You're going to do some sort of real production out there.
We are planning fully realized productions, and we have set and costume designers who are working on plans. We are working on how we'll position the musicians, how we will light this space. We're working on acquiring a very, very high-tech LED video wall that will be the backdrop for many of these productions, giving us stunning clarity in video that will animate these productions in a way maybe even more high-tech than what you've seen in our theater before. The challenges are great, but in a strange way, Paul, the opportunities are great as well.
We basically put all of our singers into a quarantine when they arrive in St. Louis. They're there for 7 days. They get tested on the 6th day so that if everybody's clear on the 8th day that they're in St. Louis, they start rehearsals.
And so once they're on stage, since everybody's been cleared as negative and been kept safe, they can stand next to each other or do a romantic scene if they need to or whatever, and that's okay.
I don't know when you'll ever see anybody kiss on stage again. I don't know that that's, we
Can we
had
at least get a hug.
They might hug, but but it'll be hugged with the faces away from each other.
We all will be together.
Opera Theater has already had success following its new safety protocols in a rehearsal hall that has been repurposed as a sound stage. It's where they filmed a pay-per-view holiday concert.
I am a very modern lover, modern major general life.
And a condensed version of the Pirates of Penzance for Opera Theater's classroom-based program called Opera on the Go. A pay-per-view adaptation of La Boheme is scheduled to be filmed for streaming in the spring.
We are absolutely adapting in many different ways, and the learning curve has been steep.
One big change this year will be producing smaller operas. Other than the season opener, a long-ago scheduled world premiere of a new version of Harvey Milk, the rest of the 2021 season will feature operas well suited for smaller productions.
It's about enabling singers to safely create that extraordinary sound that touches us. That's the experience of going to the opera, to be moved by music and by story. And we can certainly create that in this environment.
Find out more about Opera Theater of St. Louis at opera-stl.org. Next week, St. Louis-based travel journalist Bill Cleveland tells us the best places to go. Plus, chronic itching and arthritis drug is a potential new therapy. We'll tell you all about it. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.